Let's get the show on the road. Morning, everyone. Morning. So wait for the latecomers to pitch up if they do, but if they don't, doesn't matter. We had a fantastic discussion yesterday, I think. Looking forward to an equally interesting discussion this morning. I think Herman put his hand up yesterday and asked if he could start off with a bit of his story. So Herman, I'm going to hand over to you and let's take it away.
Okay, thanks. As I said yesterday, it's a little speech I gave a couple of years ago, and it's entitled Build Bridges, Not Walls. And it's very much deals with my personal story. It was a beautiful spring day when I took my two grandsons to the playground at Delta Park. It was a joy watching to meet their friends and making new friends with children who were strangers only minutes before. The fun they had, the games they played, and the excitement they showed was something to behold. Suddenly, tears were streaming down my face. I felt an emptiness and almost agonizing yearning for something I never had. You see, my childhood was devoid of innocence, closeness, and love. I was tormented by and persecuted by children and adults for the political beliefs of my parents. Before my 9th birthday, I had to watch as my mother was taken away to a post-war concentration camp. You all remember a time when many South Africans could not choose the area in which they wanted to live in. Likewise, we were prevented from living in our hometown and forced to stay in a small village where we were treated like outcasts. Sporadic interrogations by police of this 9-year-old was part of that anguish. These are some of the events that compelled me to build a wall around myself for emotional protection. Yet, little did I know that by exiling my emotions, I would numb out what I felt, both the bad, but unfortunately, also the good. I became an emotional cripple and hobbled along on that crutch long into my adulthood. When I eventually reached out to others, I discovered that I wasn't the only one hiding. Many around out there were surrounded by impregnable walls as well. This taught me that man is a master wall builder and very adept in destroying bridges. If we look around us, we shall see many walls in their different guises. Racism, political intolerance, religious fanaticism, rich versus poor, and many, many more. My interaction and communications with others was superficial at best. Oh yes, I was able to conduct reasonably intelligent conversations, but there was no sensitivity and no emotional depth. I lacked the ability to show my true feelings and love to those most dear to me, which caused a lot of pain. I was stuck in making a living, but unable to create a life. When the desire to break free arose, I was petrified. Hiding behind walls for decades created a comfort zone, and I was scared to death of the unknown out there. But the yearning to escape the self-created prison was stronger than the fear I felt. I had done my time. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a scary journey, but worth every step. The first thing I did was to take a personal and very thorough inventory. Secondly, I confided in a trusted friend who assisted me to face up to my weaknesses, fears, and vulnerabilities. And thirdly, I reflected deeply about the whole process in my journal. This gave me the courage to begin tearing down my walls. Sharing my feelings enabled me connecting with others emotionally and allowed me to start building bridges. My wall of false beliefs that stated that I needed to be perfect in order to succeed and be loved came crashing down. I learned that it's okay to be vulnerable and make mistakes. In fact, they became my building blocks to wisdom. I learned that one of the most powerful tools for building bridges is to dialogue and develop meaningful relationships. Through dialogue, we can focus on our communality as human beings, at the same time using our diversity to complement each other and create a South Africa where peace, justice, fairness, and respect for one another are the bridges within our society. Join me to tear down the walls that have separated us far too long. Let's start building bridges and celebrate life in all its splendor and with all its challenges. Let's unearth the passion that is deeply hidden within most of us and build a country that we can proudly hand over to our children. It is then that we can celebrate and sing the song that is in our heart and dance the dance that is in our soul. Ladies and gentlemen.
Sure. Herman, I think you've stunned us all into silence. I see some hand claps there. A fantastic, powerful story that you tell there, and I think some great insights into not only your own psyche, but the human psyche in terms of the way people do isolate themselves and protect themselves and don't open themselves up to those kind of experiences and vulnerabilities, which are absolutely necessary for progress. So yeah, excellent. Thank you very much. I'd love to hear some other thoughts. Trevor.
Yeah, so can I push Herman's buttons?
I wouldn't expect anything less.
So as powerful as that was, I was assessing where Herman is going to go. And my assessment is that his story can be, so again, I'm going to go back to the 20x, but I think your story is 20x and 20x more powerful if you had to take that piece of paper and tear it up and just talk from the heart. Because I believe that your story coming from the heart, I don't think we've even touched who you are. Just the little bit that you shared about yourself as a 9-year-old. And as I said, I'd love to get into this guy who was a post-war teen and really drill down deep into that. And we can do that over the next couple of days, couple of weeks. So we allow everyone an opportunity. But I think your story would be 1,000 times more powerful if you tear that piece of paper up and you talk from the heart, and you then move forward to what you want to achieve. And I'm going back to your mentoring program. So that's just my little push in that. As powerful as it was, I think it's 1,000% more powerful when it comes from really inside here without the piece of paper.
Thanks, obviously.
I think if I just share what struck me from Herman's story, and that was that the desire, the yearning was greater than the fear. And if I think about our world at the moment in this place of fear, what is going to pull them out of that space into building bridges and creating emotional and physical connections with other people that are richer and deeper than what we had before. And so that's really what I took from one of the things. There were many, but that was the thing that perhaps stood out for me the most.
Great, thanks, Lee. Who else would like to give their thoughts on that? Yes, Ian, go for it.
Yeah, I think we were actually talking about this the other day about, we can't go to the year and we can't go there and we can't do this at the moment. But it pales into insignificance when you consider what happened in, for instance, the Second World War, amongst many others. I mean, some of us on the screen have had our experiences from a military point of view, but nothing like these guys had to endure in the Second World War, where they were starving, they were bombed. I mean, one can't even begin to comprehend that. So when you put things into perspective, we've really got nothing to complain about. We have technology that allows us to communicate with people and carry on doing business. And we should never just lose sight of the fact that what Herman had to endure, and certainly what his parents had to endure, was just unbelievable. And one can't even begin to comprehend the significance and the fear and that they went through. It's just amazing. So we have little to worry about, and we have little to complain about in our own circumstances.
Great, thanks, Ian. Yeah. Who else would like to have a comment? Stella.
Morning, everybody. Just still listening with intent. Really, enjoyed Herman's sharing. I don't have any words for now. He stunned me into silence, I think.
Thanks, Stella. Steve, you sort of came in a little bit late, so, and don't think you were with us yesterday. So, what are your thoughts on what you've just heard?
Thanks, Ivan. Yeah, sorry, apologies, I'm late. Herman, I was really struck by your passion of telling your story. It's obviously well thought through, but just thanks for sharing that. It's quite personal. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Guy.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, everyone has their own story, and those who like to listen will take something from it and look at the positive and take some of the positives out of it, and reflect on those positives.
Thanks, Guy. Jasper, what are your thoughts?
I want to latch on with what Trevor said to Herman, because we each have a story, but the power of the story comes when we've reflected on the story and we bring it together with where are we in our life right now, and how are we using that story to implement what we think is the solution for the day. And I remember in writing the legacy book, I've been living with the process for many years, but it was long chats during the editing of the book with Trevor that helped me clarify some points that if I didn't have that chance to have someone to question me on what's the meaning behind this, what are you trying to achieve with this, the message of the book could have been misunderstood. And I think with Herman, it's a starting point to write down your feelings and emotions on paper, which is a very good starting point because it comes from within yourself. And I agree with Trevor. We all have our story, and there's a lot of value in that story. But then bring it to the point where you bring maybe one or two people around you, where you allow them to question you on, so what do you do with this, and where do you want to take this? So that's just my input.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Cecile, your thoughts?
It's amazing to listen to Herman's story, because I thought a little that there was, I didn't actually think that deeply about that's what happened to him. But what is interesting, what you were saying about talking about connecting with people. I've only gone out twice in this last 2 weeks. And it's interesting. Normally, when you are in a supermarket or anyone else, everyone just goes their own way, and there's no eye contact between people, and you just. I mean, I often think I've lived in this suburb for 20 years, but sometimes I would go to Cresta and I wouldn't see one single person that I know. But when I went to donate blood once, and the other time I had to go to the Telkom office, which was closed, so I went to Checkers instead. People are kinder to each other at the moment in, let's say, in the open. In Checkers, for instance, people would give each other space, and they would give you a turn to go in the checkout till, and people would look at each other and make eye contact and acknowledge that you're there. Because just before the lockdown, I also heard that someone said, I think a psychologist said, normally in the society that we used to live in, you would get to someone, greet him, and not even make eye contact. But with us now not touching strange people, there's a lot more eye contact between people. So maybe it's a way to. This is a way to actually shock us into stand still and look around us and be more mindful about what is going on around us.
Thanks, Cecilia. That's a very interesting observation. So the way you're seeing it is people are starting to already adapt in such a short space of time into new habits, new modes of operation. I think that's a very interesting observation. Yes, Lee.
Yeah, I want to pick up on what Cecile is saying, but also this idea of story. And it was an amazing experience for me going into corporates. And one of the first things I would do is just ask people, part of the Wisdoms program, part of the Difference Maker, is we start with the principle that everyone has a story to tell, and just give the floor to 10, 11, 12 people to just say, okay, the next hour and a half, people are used to just having a short intro. We just have a quick icebreaker, and then we get into the guts of it. But I would take sometimes half the program just to spend people telling their stories. And there was breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough when people just paid attention to somebody that they'd worked with for somewhere between 5 and 15 years. And they would say, oh, I didn't know that about you. Or I had exactly the same experience. And their eyes are opened to, and I heard it over and over again, people saying, so I connect with you now as a human being. And in a way it's scary, because the reality is they've been working with this human being for however long, but it took digging just a little bit deeper into their story to realize that there is a real person with dynamics that have impacted who they are to this day. And that was very, very powerful. And again, if I pick up what Cecile is saying, is that maybe part of our consciousness going forward is to pay attention to people's stories and the person on the other side of the eyes.
Right, thanks, Lisa. I'm going to pick up on another set of eyes and the chap with a big smile on his face at the moment. So, Guy, we're going to push your buttons this morning. So, tell us a bit about who Guy Danes really is, and a bit of your background and your story.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's very interesting that we go into this depth, because over time we actually start to understand certain critical issues or certain issues that are a pain in the butt. So let's try and see where I go. I'm 64 this year. I'm a Scorpion, And I have 4 tattoos. I have 2 tattoos on my right calf and on my left calf. The one tattoo is a tattoo of a scorpion. The other one is a tattoo of the words by the Beatles, "Let It Be," with Mother Mary and wisdom. On the other side of my on my left leg, I've got a tattoo: pause, breathe, and smile. And I have a prosperity tattoo in Chinese. Plus, I have 2 earrings. The first earring I got in 2008 when I said to my son, I bet him that he wouldn't be Cricket of the Year 3 years in a row, and he was. So he said you had to put an earring. So I did that, kept my word. And the other earring I put in last year. So I've been married for 38 years. My son's 31. Some say I'm a bit dyslexic, a bit eccentric, but I know historically and even now sometimes I'm stubborn and impatient. I'm a driver, expressive, analytical personality, I suppose. I wasn't that analytical until quite a few years ago. Come from a military family, very disciplined. Keep your word, integrity, be your own person, don't take any shit from anyone. My father fought in the Korean War when he was 21 or 22. Told me a number of stories about his 2 years, I think it was, in the Korean War. And then he was a lieutenant colonel in the Rhodesian War. And obviously fought in that. And I won't tell you some of the things that he used to bring home in a bottle because a close friend next to him was taken out 6 inches from him, etc., etc. Yeah, and that savage Mugabe, I still call myself a Rhodesian, not a Zimbabwean. I went to boarding school because my old man moved around quite a bit. And because I wasn't that clever, I never passed English at school. So they put me into boarding school. I have a sister who lives in Cape Town. She didn't go into boarding school, maybe because I was the rebel. I spent 3 years myself in the army. I think Ian and Ivan will know something about that. I have bangles on my arms all over. Some are Buddhism bangles. I've got one bangle here still from the Rhodesian War. I've even got Nelson Mandela's bangle, 46664. Because as an older white person here in South Africa, I wanted to embrace, and I looked up to the leadership of F.W. de Klerk and Nelson Mandela. And it's a pity those 2 people aren't in those leadership roles today, and no one, in my mind, in running the country has actually stepped up to their sort of level and their benchmark in terms of statesmanship. So just in terms of my competitiveness at sport, I played junior school provincial soccer. I played junior school provincial cricket only after taking up cricket in the last term of the school term, where some elderly gentleman took me aside and spent hours with me. He just saw something. Prior to that, and that was, I don't know, 1969, I was born in 1956. He just saw something and he spent a hell of a lot of time with me, and that stayed with me forever in my life, because cricket has given me some phenomenal experiences and contacts. At high school, I played first team cricket and rugby for 4 years. So from grade 9 today, or I forget what it, Form 2 in those days. And because of that, I've always associated with older people. and was criticized in a number of ways with friends. I suppose they thought I was a friend at my level. I always wanted something mentally more challenging, more stimulating, even at that sort of age. I was a cricket captain, reserve for Cravenweek Rugby, played provincial and rugby and cricket at school, played men's provincial cricket at school for Midlands. Brian Davidson was our cricket captain, and he was captain of the Rhodesian cricket side then. Just going back briefly, 1969, the Aussies played the Springboks, and I listened to it on the radio, the Bill Lawry test, and John Tricos, Rhodesian, was an off spinner, and he played in those tests. And that was 1969. 1979, I met John Tricos, and I ended up playing cricket with him and becoming a close friend. And I still keep in contact with him today in Australia, where he still coaches some cricket at the age of, I think it is 76 or 75 or whatever the case may be. He does other things. He had a major, powerful impact on my life. And through him, I managed to play a few games for Rhodesia, one game for Zimbabwe, before it became test status, and I was in the squad to play the West Indies when I immigrated to South Africa in latter part of 1981. I spent 1 or 2 years in the banking environment in Zimbabwe, and I came to South Africa with two suitcases in my hand, my cricket bag, and 500 rand. And that 500 rand was equivalent then to my 50% of my salary. I got like a semi-transfer to the Nedbank group, and my starting salary, I clearly remember it, was 950 rand. And I came with 500 rand in my pocket. So I've had a career in banking up until 1995. I was a national marketing and sales manager at a bank, and we had a head office boardroom meeting where our new MD came in, and he had a go at me in front of a whole lot of people, and I believe he didn't have the facts, and I told him so. Subsequently, obviously, within a couple of months, I resigned, left the bank, and became MD and a shareholder of a small SME, which was a design company. And then while I was there for 2 years, I added 2 divisions, a marketing arm and a PR arm. And then after a while, I just wasn't into partners. I realized that I had to go and row my own boat. So since 1997, I've rowed my own boat. The latter part of 1997, my old man fell, had to go into Sunninghill Hospital, fly down from Rhodesia, and he had a heart op, and he spent 3 months in ICU and never got out. And I had family from all around the world coming to stay with me in a small, well, in a 3-bedroom home, but people were sleeping in the lounge, the sunroom, etc. And we used to go and visit my father at least 2 or 3 times a day. And this while I just started my own business, and obviously the first 2 years of starting my own business was pretty rough. But it taught me going that number of times for 3 months to an ICU. I saw a number of people that passed away while being in the ICU, and certain things just clicked to me in terms of, you know, what's my life all about? You know, what do I really want to do? Where am I actually going? Because all this around me, and it was quite an emotional time, and I'm, you know, at certain times was very emotional then. Now I'm not emotional at all, I'd say. but maybe I haven't had some buttons pushed, and maybe you guys will push those, so we'll show some emotion. I see Trevor sticking his hand up, but so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, so let's have a look. So yeah, so in my business, my son was born in 1989. I was an 8 handicap, and I gave up golf for 19 years to make sure that I was going to be a good father. I didn't see a lot of my father because he was fighting a war, killing savages around us. And I've got on my wall here a rugby photograph of first team rugby where there's 4 or 5 of my friends got taken out in the first year of leaving school. So maybe that's when I get a bit emotional, and I maybe need to let that go, and because I live in the past sometimes, and I accept that and appreciate that I should let the past go. So 22 years ran my own SME coaching business. Then in 2016, took my business online for SME coaching online also as opposed to face-to-face. And then 2017, with my son, started Sales Wisdom Academy, which is online learning, also for salespeople. And then I just got to a point late 2018, and I said, nah, you know what I mean? I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. So I just checked out. Up until that point, I used to communicate or try and be in circles with people in their 50s and 60s, and they just pissed me off. They spoke about problems all the time. They spoke about money. They spoke about politics and all that bullshit, and it bored the shit out of me. So the past 3-4 years, I've really been communicating with lots of 20, 30, and 40-year-olds, and it's been fascinating getting some of the insights, whether they all parts of the spectrum of South Africa, and it's been quite a fascinating journey. And then last year, I started to get into Buddhism and learn deeper what Buddhism is, and I've realized that all of us have some Buddhism in us, and it's to what level that one wants to look at the mindfulness, one's values, and a lot of giving. I'm a firm believer in karma. Without a doubt, karma has come and smacked me so many times. Trust me, I've made a lot of money, or a fair amount of money. I've lost a fair amount of money because of ego and arrogance, but also because of emotional intelligence not being at the level that it should have. But over the past 8-9 years, all those things have sort of fallen in balance a bit better. I spend a lot of time. So last year, I took the year out and I said, that's it. I don't need to do any of this stuff. And I sat and wrote a book titled Keep Sales Management Simple, Stupid. And it's just got on hold. It's ready to go and get printed and whatever. But then in 2016, I did this book. Whoops, upside down. If you expand the horizons of your small to medium-sized business. And yeah, it's so that's basically me. I like to keep life simple. My wife and I are looking at maybe going down and moving to Salt Rock later on this year. We have 2 little dogs, Yorkies, Jasmine and Tyson, and we live for them. I keep a very simple life, you know. So this lockdown really hasn't affected me that much, because if I go to the pub once a week and have a few drinks on a Sunday afternoon and listen to some light music, I do that. But I spend a tremendous amount of time reading, researching, because I understand, I'm starting to understand myself very well. And I really enjoy my own company. And this sort of platform and forum, I'll get you now if I may, Ed. Is that all right?
Guys, I think, we do need to start wrapping up, but I think...
okay, sorry, I didn't... okay, so anyway, there it is. That's about 99% me. or a couple of other things that I haven't gone through. But
Right, no, that's
sorry, I didn't realize that.
No,
maybe
not-
these 30 minutes are getting a bit too short, and they should be 40 minutes because of.
Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. Thanks for that. Thanks for that sharing. I really appreciate that. I think it gives us an insight into who the man is. And what I'd like to do is just do one whip around the circle, starting with Trevor, just to wrap up and close off. And we can always pick up on these things in the morning. So Trevor, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely fascinated. The things that I just want to drill down into Guy, and I want to drill down into Herman, because there are things that they've been through in their experiences that really make them who they are. And then on top of that, it's how they start inspiring others from this day going forward. So I'm so excited about that, but I'm also the individual with the least EQ in this whole forum. So I couldn't give a stuff, but I'm watching the time because I think we should always keep it clipped, but know that we're going to come back here. Guy, you're not off the hook. So my finger for pushing the buttons is I'm practicing, and I'll work on it the whole of today because over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, I'm going to push those buttons. There's a lot I want to actually get into with both you and Herman, but fascinating.
Good. As long as we hear from Ivan and Ian and Lee's story and Steve,
it's not, don't listen. Don't you try and take over this forum.
Okay, now both of you mute your microphones because I'm moving on now. So, Cecile, last thoughts from you.
No, I was a good listener today. I'm fascinated as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to listen to hear all your stories. I hope someone didn't share a story yesterday that I missed. And I'm still, what fascinated me was when Trevor was starting to share right in the beginning. He shared a little bit of his story, which I didn't know about him. I've known him for a long time and I didn't know that about him. So I am very curious. The curious part of me is very curious to know a lot more about all of you. Lekker.
Thanks, Cecile. Jasper.
No, I think we're on an interesting journey as we start to hear people's stories, and it will certainly help us in dealing with one another because, you know, we tend to deal superficially with people just in terms of tasks, but it can help if you know people. So I'm looking forward to this journey.
All right, thanks, Jasper. Steve.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, it was interesting hearing the stories this morning. Thanks very much for sharing. I look forward to hearing more.
All right, thanks, Steve. Stella.
Thanks for sharing, Kai. You're a very special old man. I look forward to hearing more even from everybody else. Stay blessed, everyone.
Ian, some final thoughts from you?
Oh, nothing, excuse me, nothing much more to add on to that. I mean, I think we've all got some stories and we've all got some lessons that we've learned along the way that hopefully we can share with other people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the continuation of the process.
Thanks, Ian. Herman, some final thoughts from you?
Well, I have one or two responses specifically to Trevor, but I'll save them for tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Herman. And Lee, some final thoughts from your side.
Just to say thank you for sharing. It's a moment of vulnerability when you put who you are in front of other people. And so I just appreciate that. And it is wisdom. The wisdom of your life experience is something that we are all imbibing and connecting with you on a human level. So thank you for that.
Right,
and just to highlight what Trevor's just written in the chat, that Oscar Chalupsky is going to be with us tomorrow. And so we look forward to his input again.
Great. Thanks, Lee. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Again, an excellent session, I think, this morning, and looking forward to tomorrow. See you later. Just have a great day.